Hey guys, it's Maria Park and welcome to Approach the Nerd. And in this episode, we are reviewing Moon Knight by the MCU, Episode 1 on Disney+. So, as we have seen with many other MCU series to date, they have decided to retcon the comic once again. So, a lot of the things that we are used to when basically reading the comic book series, kind of like what they did with Hawkeye, what they did with Falcon and Winter Soldier, what they've done with, pretty much every MCU show we've seen to date. They have taken lots of liberties and they have reinvented the wheel, which is okay, but also not okay. I don't know. In the comics, the main character, which still could technically be true in this, the main protagonist, is not Steve Grant. So Steve Grant in this is this little mousy guy, very lonely, suffering from some type of mental illness that he himself is not aware of. Now, we know from the comics that he has DID, or dissociative identity disorder, or some even speculate it's a form of schizophrenia, but definitely something with multiple personalities. He also is severely depressed, and he also has low confidence and self-esteem issues in the comics. In this one, or not in the comics, in the MCU. So this is what happened. Now, in the MCU, they took Mark Spector's, vigilante, I am basically an ex-mercenary badass persona, and kind of did like a Samurai Deeper Kyo situation where the meek and kind of weak guy, or as the voice says, the idiot, is actually the one who is the primary host, and then Mark Spector is the Samurai Deeper Kyo. So it's like, in a sense, it's very odd to me. Also, if you know anything about the comics, the character of Grant was a millionaire, and he started this company called Spectre Corp to basically pay for everything. So he's basically Batman. You know how Batman uses Wayne Industries to pay for Batman's, cool gadgets and devices? Well, Grant founded a company to sponsor his Moon Knight, kind of activities. And I'm like, we don't have that now because Grant is poor. Like, he's just poor. I don't know. I'm in my feelings, guys, because I'm kind of like, okay, I see what they were attempting to do. Like, I love the fact that the MCU tries to make things fresh and they go out of their way to try and make things come together within their own universe. And essentially, the MCU has said many a time that their universe is not canon to the comics. So if you're looking for Earth 616 and yada, 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 you're not going to find it. But, like, it's so weird because if you look at or listen and watch my previous Hawkeye review, you'll see that I had a problem with Hawkeye's origin story because there was a character that was very instrumental to everything that Clint was. And he was made to be literally a side character that had no connection to Clinton whatsoever. And it seemed like they just seem to do this all the time in every show. So there's not going to be a Spectre Corp that I think is going to happen. If it is, it might be financed by, unfortunately, by Spectre, which makes no sense because, yes, he's a mercenary. I'm sure he makes pretty good funds, but that was never his role. So I am kind of on the fence on what that entails and what's going to happen with that. But yeah, so in all, intents and purposes, Steven is somebody who really needs a lot of help and is continuously late for work and is continuously having all of these issues. And nobody asks him if he's okay. Like, I guess mental health is not a big issue in the MCU. That's what I'm thinking. Because, like, the guy literally is like, I didn't feel like myself. No one's like, hey, Steven, why are you always late for work? What is wrong? Are you feeling okay? What is wrong with you? Nobody actually ask him these questions. When he basically misses a date in this episode with one of the tour guides of the museum that he works at, because he works at the museum as a museum gift store clerk. I'm being very nice with the name of it, giving him some accolades he probably didn't have. He probably isn't even a clerk. He might just be a cashier, but he, apparently made this date, which I'm beginning to think Spectre made the date with this woman that he, I guess, has had a crush on. And then he doesn't remember it, obviously, because it wasn't him. And then never shows up to the date because they were supposed to go on that date on a Friday. And then when he goes to the restaurant, he doesn't even realize it's Sunday. And so he has all this time skips and lost time, and he doesn't understand why this is happening. So, like, a lot of this episode is basically trying to figure out what in the heck is wrong with him. Is he crazy, or is this stuff him like ending up in an entirely different country, for instance, while he went to sleep, where he literally has restraining. He has an ankle restraint. He puts tape on the door. He has sand in front of his bed to see if he's actually going to end up outside, which he never understands how he gets outside. But I mean, basically, it's just focusing on, is Stephen Grant crazy? That's literally it. We do get to see our antagonist, which is Arthur Harrow. In the comics, he was a crazy doctor that liked to, basically do experiments and pain management on basically anybody. I'm like, he's a little cuckoo. So there's a lot I could say about Dr. Harrow, but that would be a different video. But in this intents and purposes, he is a cult leader who basically is, I guess, he's basically set up as the rival to what Moon Knight is. And if you don't know about Moon Knight in the comics, he basically is the chosen warrior of Khonshu, and he basically is supposed to protect everyone, all nighttime travelers from evil. So pretty much he's Batman. He's literally Batman, but I guess without the clout now. And instead of being motivated by the death of his parents and not having therapy, he's motivated by talking Egyptian goddess and all of his multiple personalities. And yeah, so he essentially is Batman in the Marvel Universe. Okay, so I think Oscar Isaac is a very good actor, and I loved how he could change personalities. Like, if you're listening to Spectre, the scene where he's looking at him in the mirror, I mean, they're like two different people. So there's no knocking on Oscar Isaac's performance. I just think that it was a little drawn out for me, especially since we're dealing with somebody who has mental illness. And, like, we spent so much time with pretty scenery and a lot of B-roll and a lot of different, it was like almost like the same repetitive takes of him being paranoid. And we understand he's paranoid because we don't understand what's happening to him. If you've never read a Moon Knight comic or even read his story, like any crossovers with Avengers or any other Marvel comics with Moon Knight affiliated to it, you probably would not understand what is happening until the very last scene of this episode, which is exactly when we first get our glimpse of Moon Knight. But there's so many things that have made this character what it is in the comics that obviously is not happening in the MCU. So even like speculating on what could potentially happening, now that I have a feeling that, we're not going to get Spectre Corp, or we're not going to get any of the connections that he made. Like, for instance, in the comic books, Donna is actually somebody who works for him, at his job at Spectre Corp. She's not his boss. She actually works for him. And her name was Donna Kraft in the comics. And basically she is best friends with his future, technically she's a love interest. So Marlene Arlen is the future mother of his child. He has a daughter with her and this future love interest. And I checked the cast list and I didn't see Marlene listed. So that's interesting. I guess they're retconning that too. Which, to be fair, I mean, this is what MCU does. But yeah, Donna and his future boo went to college together. And so she basically became like, she was either an editor or a PR person or published, something like that at Spectre Corp. And in this, she's just this kind of snarky, rude-ass boss that he has at the museum. And I'm like, it's just so much stuff that's really confusing for me. I am not unhappy with this. Again, like I said, Oscar Isaacs to me is a great actor. I loved it. Ethan Hunt, I haven't seen him forever and a year, so like having him in This Is Harrow is cool. I just feel like, and I hate to say this, but if I'm going to compare this, I can't compare it to another MCU show. If I'm comparing it to how Peacemaker from HBO Max and DC did with James Gunn, this is very lackluster for me. That's just my personal opinion. Not saying it can't get better, but right now, it just, for me, seemed very blah. They focus way too much on Grant, when honestly, it would have been more badass if they just kept it a Spectre and had Grant as one of the personalities like he's supposed to be. And then, of course, we get Jake, who's like the cab driver. There's even a little girl, I think it was in Milana or something, it's been a minute, that he channels a young child at some point in the comics too. It becomes one of his temporary personalities. He basically is not well. Now, I don't remember if they ever defined why, if this was something that he got from his childhood, like he's traumatized and he developed it, which a lot of characters and a lot of people do, or if it's because of him dying, because he actually essentially crashed his car and was revived by the goddess. So that's how he got his abilities. If that happened when, he became Moon Knight. Kind of like a side effect or cost of being, cool. Don't know. But at the end of the day, we spent so much time dealing with the mental illness part of this episode, but nobody really dealt with it. It's like, you're just crazy. Like, just accept it. He just, like, nobody really dealt with it. Even when he was talking on the phone with his mother, who didn't seem to really call him back, it seems like she's kind of like a mother that was, like, completely removed. Again, this character was a millionaire and another personality, so like this is not something that we're used to seeing. So it's like, where are they going with that? Is his mother going to turn out to be the root cause of his, mental illness? Are they ever going to actually address his mental illness? Because right now it just seems like, oh, cool. You have the split personality. You may have DID. And yeah, you're obviously lonely. You obviously have very low self-esteem. But does that matter? Because you're also a kick-ass superhero when you take on your Spectre, personality. It's just like, what? So, I don't know. Overall opinion, I would give this a B+. Only because I like the acting. Especially by Oscar Isaacs. I can't knock that because he did a really good job with what he has. And I don't mind Ethan Hunt as a villain. Again, I'm still getting used to that. It's interesting, but hey, why not? We've seen other, very golden generational actors and A-list actors become villains in the MCU, so why the heck not? But I just feel like until I see the next 2 episodes, I don't want to form an opinion completely whether I like the show or not. But for me, it is a slow burn. It is lackluster, and I'm hoping that it gets better. Yeah, but it has inspired me to potentially do a Moon Knight video because, once again, the MCU has basically retconned. They retcon faster than a comic book does. So, because a comic book will retcon somebody's backstory, but I mean, MCU just like, they're not important. They're not important. They're not important. Hawkeye is the perfect vehicle to talk about retconning because both Kate and Clint's complete backstories were absolutely retconned. Only a tiny bit was similar, but completely reinvented for the MCU. And yeah, it's just something that I found very interesting. But that is my opinion on Moon Knight. Not a bad show. Not a great show, a potentially good show. Slow burn, kind of lackluster. Wish that we had seen more of Moon Knight and got more of the history, a lot faster than the last 3 minutes of the episode. But that is just my opinion, guys. I want to know what you think, so please leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for Jury Duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next in Nerd Battle, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.